Right, today we want to study the Sevitabbâsevitabba Sutta, M114. This is found in chapter 8 of the Sutta Discovery, or volume 39, SD 39.8. This sutta appears to be quite long and even appears difficult for beginners. But if you really look at the structure, it's very simple. Actually, it is divided into 3 parts, or 3 cycles as we call them. And each cycle is a pair. So it's a very interesting structure. And the idea of this sutta, or one of the ideas of such suttas, is of course to teach the monks and the nuns and lay followers like ourselves the Dharma. Right? Now this sutta is very interesting in a sense, like it's like a master recital between the Buddha and Sāriputta, 2 of the wisest of the Buddhists, if you like. The Buddha and his right-hand monk, Sāriputta. The Buddha will give a teaching, a very short teaching, and then Sāriputta will elaborate on it. And after that, the Buddha will recite the whole thing again by way of endorsing Sāriputta's teaching. In other words, what the Buddha is saying, what Sāriputta has said, I would myself have exactly said. I would have said the same thing. So this is one way of authenticating the teaching. In other words, this is one way for us to know that this is the early Buddhist teachings. The early Buddhist teachings means whatever teachings that came from the Buddha in India. And this teaching, number 1, helps us to cultivate our body. Right? There is something called cultivation of the body. Cultivation of the body means restraint of the senses and our speech, or in one term, moral virtue, or one word, sila. Right? Training in moral virtue. We train our body and speech first. Why? Because this is body and speech is what we use the most in daily life. So we have to train it to cut down distractions. And if you are preparing for meditation, we have to calm it down. Okay? So that's part of bodily training. Sila. The precepts deal with the body. In the precepts, the 5th precept also deals with the mind, so to speak. Yeah? So the first 3 precepts deal with the body quite directly. The 4th precept deals with speech. 5th precept prepares the mind for meditation, so to speak. Yeah? Because you need your mind to be unclouded, calm and clear for meditation. Then there is what is called mental training, cultivation of the mind, keep the mind calm and clear. Then this joy and peace arise in our minds. And then we let go even of the joy and the peace. So these are I like to call this the 3 stages of renunciation. This is the renunciation which all Buddhists should practice, whether you are a monk, whether you are monastic or not. You are the lay people. We all need to practice some kind of renunciation. Nekkhamma. It's not just for monks. Yeah? The ironic reality is that today, if you talk about statistics, you will see there are more lay people who are renunciants than there are monastics who are renunciants. Meaning, the lay people are the ones who meditate more, keep the precepts more seriously, and practice the Dharma, or even know the Dharma much better. So, this training has helped us to preserve the Buddha's teaching. Of course, if the monks and the nuns are very serious about their practice, it's even more wonderful. Right? So this is something we have to work very hard to spread the suttas, to make the suttas available, so that we encourage all monks and nuns to be less worldly, to study the suttas more seriously, to study early Buddhism more seriously, practice their meditation, so that they become good examples for us. So these are the three trainings. But here in this Sevitabbâsevitabba Sutta, we see the Buddha in dialogue with Sāriputta. It's almost like a performance, as I say, because both of them actually know the answers, but of course, the Buddha did not read Sāriputta's mind. He doesn't have to read Sāriputta's mind. It's just like you get a professor, and you get his elder student, sit together and they have kind of a dialogue, a radio talk show, if you like. This kind of method is called a Sangayana method. Okay? This is very popular in villages of Thailand in traditional times. So the two monks will be sitting kind of side by side and to be like talking to each other. Sangayana actually means counsel, as in the Buddhist counsel. So one monk will ask a question, the other monk will reply. So here, the Buddha starts out with a short teaching, and then Sāriputta elaborates on it, and the Buddha endorses it. So this goes in 3 cycles, right? So, and the topic is a very simple topic. You see the title summarizing the topic, Sevitabba, that which should be resorted to, that which should be practiced, and so on. So there's a bit of difficulty in translating this, to find one English translation for the whole sutta, okay? Because it's applied in different ways in the 3 sections. But somehow it's possible if we bend the language a little bit. But the Pali is okay. Sevitabba has got a broad sense of meanings, meaning to associate with. Let me see, where's the analysis of this word? It's the introduction. To associate with, to enjoy, to make use of, and so on. Okay? Now you can see some of the words from which we get Sevitabba. The opposite is asevitabba, not to be associated with, not to be resorted to, not to be enjoyed. In other words, to be avoided. Right? The verb is sevati. Sevati means to associate with, to enjoy, and so on. Yeah? And then you have sevana, which is the noun, meaning to the action of doing that. Yeah? But more often, lay Buddhists will know the word asevana, right? Because asevana is the opening blessing in the Mangala Sutta. Asevana cha balana. Asevana cha balana. We normally translate as not associating with the fools, foolish people. So there, asevana, we translate as not associating with. So you can see here the various usages of this word sevitabba, asevitabba. In other words, the Buddha is using this very simple duality, saying what are the actions we should do and we should not do. In terms of ethics, we can say this is the morality of omission and the morality of commission. Or if you like, the ethics of omission, not doing something, and the ethics of commission, doing something. And the sutta also says, these are the 2 things you have to decide, to do or not to do. They are mutually exclusive, you can't avoid it. You got either you do it or you don't do it. If you take a neutral stand, means you're not doing it. Okay? So this is very clear here. This is talking about good and bad, right? And then the Buddha lists what are the things, what are the good and bad things that we have to be aware of. The Buddha first gives an overview, and then goes to other aspects of the teaching, including the practice of the monks towards the end. Okay, it's a long sutta, so let us begin right away. Page 143. The discourse on what is to be resorted to and what is not to be resorted to. M114. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in another Pentecost park in Ketas Grove near Savatthi. Then the Blessed One addressed the monks, "Bhikshus, Bhante." The monks replied to the Blessed One in assent. So this is where the monks were meditating probably, and then the Buddha is sitting there, and he's ready to give a talk. So his first word would be "Bhikshus." This is a very interesting way of addressing. The moment he says "Bhikshus," in other words, he is recognizing the status of those monks before him. They are bhikshus. And then they say "Bhante." The kind of resonant, common sound, communal sound. One voice. All the monks say "Bhante," is resounding. So they accept the Buddha as the teacher, in other words. So you have the teacher, you have the students, and now the teaching is going to be given. So you have the 3 jewels. Of course, although the Buddha addresses the monks, there are also other people around. There could be laymen, there may be even nuns sitting around there. Now you might say, how come the Buddha never said monks and nuns, ladies and gentlemen? It's been too long for one thing. Another thing is these suttas were compiled later, and they were compiled by monks. Okay, so obviously the monks will address themselves. All right, this is one opinion, one possible opinion. All right. Another possible explanation is that most of these teachings were given when the monks were present. But I think the first explanation is more likely, because there are many occasions when monks were present, but still the Buddha only addressed, nuns were present, but the Buddha addressed only the monks. So, of course, the word monks here does not represent only the renunciants. It's very interesting. This is Buddha Ghosha's opinion, especially in the meditation suttas. If you look at the Sāriputta Sutta, the very first mention of the word monks, where the instructions are given about meditation, Sāriputta Sutta. In the commentary, Majjhima commentary, the Buddha says the word bhikshu, the word bhikkhu here, the word monk here, refers to meditation, the meditators. It refers to the state of a monk, meaning he has to meditate. So anyone who meditates at that time, he attains the state of a monk. Or to be more technically accurate, when you are meditating, at that moment when you learn to let go of the body, let go of distractions from the senses, you focus your mind, you let go of feelings, let go of thoughts, you are letting go, letting go, letting go. You are renouncing. So you have attained the state of renunciation. That's the meaning. Okay? So this is a very consoling understanding. If we cannot become monks, we can still meditate. We can attain the state of monkhood, whether we are a man or a woman, whether we are ordained or not ordained. Meditation is the real definition of a true renunciation, in other words. So if a monk does not meditate, all he does is just do chanting and make money and so on, it's very worldly, then of course he's not a monk. Right? So this is a spiritual approach towards renunciation, in other words. And this is very important to understand, otherwise we will be promoting the wrong kind of Buddhism, we will be destroying Buddhism. Right? So we have to be very serious about what is Buddhism, what is not Buddhism. Or in the spirit of this sutta, what is to be associated with and what is to be rejected, not to be associated with. Right? So making the right choice, if you like. So this sutta is about the kind of training to be done. Then when the monks say Bhante, then means the monks are ready. Verse 2. The Blessed One said this, Bhikshus, I will give you a Dhamma exposition on what is to be resorted to and what is not to be resorted to. Okay? In Pali, there's always this pair of words, something to do, something not to do. So, because it's very easy to chant such compounds. Listen well, pay close attention, I will speak. Yes, Bhante, the monks replied to the Blessed One. So now you have to use your imagination, all these things, Even when the monks say, yes, Bhante, you got like 500 monks all saying, yes, Bhante, at the same time. You get this very calmly, by the way. It's not like Parliament shouting, yes, It's a very calm, kind of resounding, yes, Bhante. Imagine 500 meditators saying, yes, Bhante. So it's a very beautiful sound. The Blessed One said this. The moment you see this line, the Blessed One said this, the actual teaching begins. Bhikshus, bodily conduct is of two kinds, I say, to be resorted to and not to be resorted to. And this bodily conduct is either the one or the other. Either the one or the other, right? So you can see a note 49 there, on page 143, 149, anya manya, okay? The Pali word is anya manya. Anya manya, actually it's the same word, anya, Anya means other. But when you join together, you get an M in the middle, anya manya, it means one or the other, mutually exclusive. In other words, you cannot have both. There's only one. This is one of those rare occasions in Buddhism where you either do it or don't do it. In other religions, they would say, either you're with us or you're against us. But that's not a very correct idea, because you can still take a neutral stand in that case. But not in good and evil. In doing good and evil, it's kind of very clear. So that's the meaning. In this bodily conduct, and this bodily conduct is either the one or the other. So this is a summary. The Buddha said, well, when it comes to the body, you either do something or don't do it. Okay? Two kinds of things. Like for example, take the 5 precepts. 5 precepts, 5 things you don't do. And then you got the 5 noble qualities, things that you do. For example, having stopped killing, you practice compassion. Having stopped stealing or refraining from taking the not given, we practice generosity. Having restrained from such a misconduct, we practice contentment. Having restrained from lying, we practice truthfulness. Having restrained or given up being intoxicated, we practice mindfulness. Right? So you have 5 things to avoid, 5 things to practice. So this is a very simple example of Sevitabba, Asevitabba. And then brackets 2 bhikshus, verbal conduct is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this verbal conduct is either the one or the other. Same thing, with, say, for example, the 4th precept. You're either telling the truth or you're not telling the truth. Bhikshus, mental conduct is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this mental conduct is either the one or the other. Bhikshus, the arising of thought is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. Right, so you can see here you have body, speech and mind, that's 1, 2, 3. And then there is something new, arising of thought. They're all in bold. And this arising of thought is either the one or the other. Brackets 5, bhikshus, the gain in perception is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this gain of perception is either the one or the other. Bhikshus, the gain in views is of 2 kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this gain in views is either the one or the other. Bhikshus, the gain in personhood is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this gain in personhood is either the one or the other. So there you have 7 pairs, 7 things. The first 3 are the 3 doors of action, body, speech and mind, 3 doors of karma. And then number 4 and 5, they kind of, 4, 5, 6 are kind of connected. Now, number 4, arising of thought, it is when a thought occurs in your mind. Okay, it can be good, it can be bad. And then number 5 is gain in perception. Gain here means accumulation through habit, right? Gain. And then perception is when you begin to notice those thoughts, and then you associate ideas to those thoughts. Then you form views. You start building up these thoughts. Right? That is number 6. And when you have these views become very habitual, it becomes you. It becomes what you are, your personhood. Your personhood is not only what you are now, but what you will be in the future. So personhood also refers to rebirth. Yeah? Okay? So that's a bit of very simple explanation on these 7 terms. Right, so Sāriputta now elaborates on what Buddha says. Look at verse 4 on page 144. When this was said, the Venerable Sāriputta said this to the Blessed One. Bhante, what has been briefly spoken by the Blessed One regarding this matter without elaborating its meaning in detail, I understand its meaning in detail thus. Okay? So Sāriputta now explains in detail for our benefit. Again here you notice 1 to 7 are listed but in more detail. Bodily conduct. Okay, this one I've just put in the headings easy for us. Bhikshus, bodily conduct is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this bodily conduct is either the one or the other. Thus it has been said by the Blessed One. In what connection has this been said? Okay, this little section here is the commentarial method. So you find a verse is mentioned in bold, then the Sāriputta or the commentator will say, okay, this is the explanation. Right? There's an early example of a commentary. 5.2. Bhante, as regards such bodily conduct, when resorted to, unwholesome states increase and wholesome states decrease. Such bodily conduct should not be resorted to. But Bhante, as regards such bodily conduct, when resorted to, wholesome states decrease, unwholesome states decrease, and wholesome states increase. Such bodily conduct should be resorted to. Right? So it's a very simple elaboration here, but it's very significant. In other words, how do I decide to do something or not to do something? Should I do this or not, right? So, according to Sutta, you ask yourself, when I do this, is it wholesome or not? Is it skillful or not? Is it good or not? Does it make me truly happy or not? Truly happy means you are happy, other people are also happy, things around us also alright. No one is hurt. That's the meaning of truly happy. And because if you say, am I happy, it can be quite selfish. So, yeah, I'm happy, but my enemy is suffering, I'm happy. But that's not truly happy. Okay? That is happy at the expense of someone else. Right? So it's not Dhamma-based happiness. So this is very basic teaching. See, goodness, happiness are very simple things. In a sense to decide. You don't need to go into deep philosophy and argumentation and scholarship. You know what's right, you know what's wrong. Right? So this is where, in a sense, you might say studying Buddhism is really simple. To know what's right, what's wrong. And be on the side of the right, be on the side of the good. Right? But modern life makes it quite complicated. So this is where we always got to get down to the bottom of things again. We got to remind ourselves of the very basic teaching of Buddhism. Basic, going back to the base, to the roots. We must always remember that. That is why also I think the Buddha reminds us not to get lost in rituals and vows. Because sometimes we are so carried away by rituals, all the noise and the sounds and the distractions, and we forget the real thing. We get so worried, oh dear, I chanted this word wrongly, or I left out one word, or worse, I left out one line, one verse. And you get so worried about it, you become Brahmins. We never progress, right? Even when we study suttas, we study suttas to calm our minds. Sometimes we don't understand certain things, it's okay. Studying sutta is about what you can remember and what happens to you when you study suttas. You become happy, peaceful inside, right? It's like a very positive change happens to you. That's the purpose of studying suttas. So in other words, the Buddhist practice is a very, very simple practice. The simpler, the better. So that we have more time to do what is really important, to help people, to reach out to others who are suffering. You notice when people suffer, people get angry, get upset, become violent, all for some silly, unimportant thing. And then when there is a lot of suffering, they realize, oh, this is not good, and they stop. And then peace, prosperity, and then people again do crazy things, You notice when there's no war, the country is very peaceful, people start behaving really weird and strange and kinky and funny, because they're so bored. And then war comes again. War comes again, you don't have fashion shows in war, you can't buy expensive things, you can't show off nice big cars or whatever. So it goes up and down. This is samsara. But basically, when you look at the monks, if they really practice their training, whether there is war or peace, prosperity or poverty, the monks are the same, unchanged. Because if they keep to the rules, they're always peaceful. And the words they say are so wonderful. Only yesterday, I was looking through some people contact us, they want to join them. They want us to join their Facebook. So they put up very nice verses there. So there was this two excerpts, actually it's only one excerpt on this Facebook, very, very beautiful excerpt from the abbot of Wat Pa Nanachat in northwest Thailand. I think the latest abbot, I think there are quite a number of abbots there, is Ajahn Jayasaro. He wrote some very simple, beautiful words about the nature of the senses. A short verse. When I looked at that, I said, wow, this is a very beautiful verse. I can write a whole reflection on this. So this is where something beautiful from someone who really practices the Dharma will inspire us with greater beauty and truth. And then, I'll write this out, send it out to you, and you also feel happy. So this is a transmission of happiness going back right to the Buddha's time. That's what we want. Of course, you can also listen to talks about management coming up from some other managers who are not very happy anyway. And we think, wow, that's Buddhism, modern management, using Buddhism, using modern management. You don't need to modernize Buddhism. You don't need to change Buddhism. You must change yourself. So if you touch the true happiness that you see in these monks who really practice, who are exemplars of inner peace, you feel so joyful. You tell yourself, I don't need anything else in the world. I'm so happy already. So the more happy you are, the less wants you have, the less needs you have. So this is one sign of being happy. It's something like, what should I say? Low input, high output individual. You have this car that uses very little petrol and wow, can go very far. It's a very good car and something like that. And then the life of a monk is to be like that. The Vinaya restrains the monk so that he does not become a parasite to society. He lives a quiet, gentle, almost self-supporting life of great joy and peace and wisdom for the benefit of others. So, you find everything here, back to the sutta, everything kind of, there's a template and the other teachings kind of repeat itself, so it becomes very easy after this. Let's go back to look at 5.3 now. Bodily conduct not to be resorted to. 5.3. What kind of bodily conduct, Bhante? When resorted to, unwholesome states increase and wholesome state decrease. Notice here something very interesting. Look at this slide. Sāriputta addresses the Buddha. He says, Bhante, this is, right? So he's not teaching the Buddha. It sounds almost like he's teaching the Buddha, but actually he's reporting to the Buddha. Now this is what happens when you get a graduate student. He has to present his paper, to the professors, to a bench of professors, right? But in this case, of course, it's presenting to the Buddha, right? And then the professors will question the student and so on, right? So it's something like that. So here, Sāriputta is defining what is it that is unwholesome and wholesome. Now, this is something we're familiar with already, so we won't go into detail. 5.4, right? So here, Bhante, a person is one who destroys living beings, cruel, bloody-handed, given to cruelty and violence, merciless to living beings. So killing is to be avoided. Number 2, stealing. Furthermore, he takes what is not given, and so on, right? Number 3, sexual misconduct. Here again, we have the famous definition, not to abuse someone who is under protection, still young, still junior, someone who is married, someone who is betrothed, and so on. So in a sense, this precept is to show the value of family, the value of respect for the individual, the person of the individual also. So, Bhante, such bodily conduct when resorted to, unwholesome states increase and wholesome states decrease. Right? So these are the first 3 precepts. The first 2 precepts is refraining, is against killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. So these 3 actions attract negative, unwholesome karma. And then what are to be resorted to, right? So these are the positive actions. 5.6. What kind of bodily conduct, Bhante? When resorted to, unwholesome states decrease and wholesome states increase. Now here, it's just the opposite. Number 4, it follows up. 1, 2, 3. The first 3 are the negative karma, and then 4, 5, 6 are the positive karma. Not killing. In other words, having given up killing, he practices compassion. Then number 5, not stealing. Having given up taking the not given, he practices generosity. And then number 6, not committing sexual misconduct. Having given up sexual misconduct, he refrains from sexual misconduct. In other words, he practices contentment. So these 3, the last 3, are wholesome bodily conduct. Wholesome bodily conduct, something to be associated with, to be practiced. So here we know very well the meaning is to be practiced, to be increased, to habitually do this, right? So the idea is to make doing good more and more natural with us. That's the meaning of training in moral virtue. Then verbal conduct. What are the verbal conduct to be not to be associated with or not to be resorted to? We have 6.2. And Bhante, as regards to such verbal conduct, when resorted to, unwholesome states increase and wholesome states decrease. This to be avoided. And where unwholesome states decrease, wholesome states increase, then you should practice them. And what are they? You have the 4. First of all, there are 4 wrong kinds of speeches to be avoided. 6.4. Number 1 is falsehood to be avoided, right? The details we have done in the previous talk, the previous sutta, you remember, some time ago. So I won't read out the details here. And then so that's number 7. Number 8 is divisive speech is unwholesome, to be avoided. Divisive speech, breaking up friendship, breaking up concord, breaking up families, breaking up couples and so on. Number 9, harsh words, words that hurt, words that are not pleasant. These are not wholesome. And then brackets 10 is frivolous chatter. This is also unwholesome. It doesn't help us. Right? So these are 4 kinds of speeches which are not wholesome, not to be associated with. And then the 4 kinds of speeches to be associated with. 6.6, 6.7, 6.7, brackets 11, not speaking falsehood. We practice telling the truth. And then number 12, not slandering, having given up divisive speech, we practice speech that is conducive to concord, unifying people, encouraging friendship. Number 13, next page, page 147, brackets 13. Avoiding harsh speech, we practice pleasant speech, practice soothing speech. Right? In fact, this verse here is very nice. It says, he utters words that are gentle, pleasant to the ear, loving, touching the heart, obeying or refined, delighting to the multitude, pleasing to the multitude. This same line is also found in the Dantabhumi Sutta, which I'm translating right now, where there is a parable of the elephant tamer. So the parable says this elephant tamer will talk very gently, very soothingly to the elephant, to tame and train the elephant. Right? So in other words, the kind of speech we use, pleasant speech, is very important. You will realize the importance of pleasant speech even more acutely when you do meditation. You notice when you have a good teacher, this teacher will give instruction in meditation in a very soothing way, very calm way. And when you hear the voice, it's very soothing, it's easy for you to meditate. And this is one of the qualities you will know when you meditate. Pleasant speech. And then number 14, having given up frivolous chatter, we practice useful talk. Useful talk, that means when someone talks to us, we try to be somehow some benefit to this person. We try to somehow say something that will maybe make the person happy, in other words. Sometimes even online, we receive emails, messages, people are very angry, very upset. So we try to soothe them by saying something that will make them happy. Now next, big section, mental conduct. Mental conduct, a bhikshu's mental conduct is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this mental conduct is either the one or the other. So the Buddha said this. Thus, it has been said by the Blessed One. And in what connection has it been said? Bhante, as regards such mental conduct, when resorted to, unwholesome states increase, and wholesome states decrease. Such mental conduct should not be resorted to. But Bhante, as regards such mental conduct, when resorted to, unwholesome states decrease, and wholesome states increase. Such mental conduct should be resorted to. So, now the mind, what kind of mental action should be practiced? Not practiced. So here you have 3. Look at 7.4. This is number 15. Okay, these are all running numbers of the conduct. Here, Bhante, a certain person is covetous, who covets the possessions of others, they are of service to them, thinking, oh, may what belongs to others become mine. So there's this desire. I want this. So this is not helpful. So this is unwholesome. Right? Then, next one, 16, ill will. This person has a heart of ill will. He says, oh, may my enemies be destroyed. Right? So this is number 2, ill will. These are actions of the mind, karma of the mind. And then number 17, no, sorry, I missed that one. 16. Oh yes, okay, so here is where the list stops. This first part, it starts with ill will. And then the positive cycle starts. What is we practice here? Instead of coveting, we practice letting go, renunciation. And then instead of ill will, we practice loving kindness. May they continue to be happy. Okay? So, that is one set. Then the new set, the arising of thought. So now we have completed the body, speech and mind. Now the next one, arising of thought. Bhikshus, the arising of thought is of two kinds. To be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this arising of thought is either the one or the other. So the Buddha said this, what's the meaning? Okay, point 2, Bhante, as regards to such arising of thought, said Sāriputta, says this kind of thought, if it arises, unwholesome states increase, wholesome state decrease, that's not good, avoid it. This kind of thought that arises, unwholesome state becomes less, wholesome states become more. Then it should be cultivated, resorted to. Well, what are the thoughts not to be resorted to? Okay, here again, just look at the number 19, brackets 19, covetousness. It's not to be resorted to. When the thought arises, you have to let it go. So not to be resorted to also means letting go. So this is where the thoughts arise by itself, so to speak. So this is past karma coming back. Oh, I want this. Someone got a nice something, I want that. So let go of that thought. The moment it arises, let it go. Then next one is ill will. Sometimes ill will, anger may arise, some unhappy thought arises. Let it go immediately. It's just a thought. Because why? If we allow the thought, maybe a bit more, we become troubled, become vexed, we are upset. There are many things we can't do. Our energies become depleted. There are what thoughts to be resorted to. So here look at 8.7 brackets 21. Non-covetousness. Letting go of non-covetousness. Just let it go. Okay? And then non-ill will. With a heart of free from ill will. We practice loving kindness towards. Okay? So, by practicing loving kindness, you have pushed out ill will. So this is the arising of thoughts. So arising of thoughts means something spontaneous, something that is passive. You don't make an effort, but it comes. So we see very quietly a thought crosses our minds, we say. Right? This is the one, arising of thought. The thought crosses the mind. Okay? That's the meaning. Next one is perception. That means you associate with this thought and then you link it to something in the past. Bhikshus, again, in perception is of two kinds, I say. To be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this gain in perception is either the one or the other. What does this mean? And then Sāriputta explains it. Okay? In the same way as before. If unwholesomeness arises and good and the wholesomeness decreases, it's avoided. But if wholesomeness increases and unwholesomeness decreases, practice it. Perception not to be resorted to. What is this? 9.4. Again here you have very similar pair. Covetousness and evil. Notice this? Covetousness and evil, same as the previous two. So here you have a detailed treatment of the mental karma. Alright? Covetousness is desiring what other people have. You see other people have something, you measure yourself against this person, and you also want those things. In other words, here you begin to connect, say, wow, this person has got a nice phone, a nice car, nice house, whatever, or a large portfolio or something. So you say, I also want to have this. So that is unwholesome. right? So we let it go. So this is a kind of building up of this thought. So once the thoughts start building up, then again, you still should let it go. Same thing with ill will also. An unhappy thought arises, and then we start collecting more unhappiness, thinking about it, it gets worse. We're not going to do that. Because sometimes we may do that. There's a struggle inside us, Let's say we are still, beginner Buddhists, right? So sometimes you think of unhappy thoughts, it comes back. So you make an effort. So this is the real trial of being a Buddhist. The real idea of being a Buddhist is in your mind. How you struggle to overcome negative thoughts. So the next section, 9.6 to 9.9 is the same. It's just it's just the reverse of the previous section. You practice non-covetousness by relating to positive things that happen in your life. So you recall to mind some peaceful moments like that. And then instead of ill will, you recall to mind some very calm, happy moments of loving kindness. So here, the sutta is talking about different levels of thought arising. Arising means coming to you spontaneously, crossing your mind. Gaining perception means we build it up, we harp on it. So don't do that. Because if you do that, then it becomes a view. Look at number 10 now, 10.1, section bracket 6. Then it becomes a view. You say, okay, this is my view now. You don't say it in so many words, but it gets stuck in your head, right? Take for example, a passing thought crosses your mind. Someone did something bad to me. And then you start thinking about it. Yeah, he did this, you remember all these things. And then you form the view, this guy is bad, okay? But this person already changed. He's not a good person. But your opinion is still, your view is still of something in the past. So this is the level here. Okay? Bracket 6. So here again, there is still a chance. Don't associate with this view. Let go of this view. Overcome this view. And then switch to the opposite one. Okay? Something to be resorted to. So that's how we practice this on this level. So I've summarized for you this part because it repeats itself. In other words, you let go of wrong views and cultivate right views. What are right views? Look at 10.8 on page 151. There is what is given, what is offered, what is sacrificed. In other words, generosity has its fruits. It makes you feel calm and happy. There is fruit and result of good actions and bad actions. Like karma does work. There is this world and the next world. In other words, even though I may be born in this world, there are also other kinds of existences which are not happy or which are happy. There is mother and father. Here, in other words, we didn't arise in this world spontaneously. We have parents, and we should respect them, care for them. Today is a great day to remember this. It's Mother's Day. There are beings that are reborn. There are recluses and Brahmins who, living rightly and practicing rightly, having directly known and realized for themselves this world and the hereafter, proclaim them. In other words, it is possible to do good, practice good. And there are people out there who are teaching these things. In every religion, there are good people. In other words, goodness is possible. This is a very positive message. Yeah? And then number 7, the last one, is gain in personhood. In other words, when you notice the sequence here, the first 3 is body, speech, and mind. Things we do with our body, speech, and mind. And then number 4, arising of thoughts. The thoughts arise naturally, spontaneously, right? And then we kind of examine the thoughts and we connect it, we recognize it, we superimpose our past on it, right? And it becomes views. And then the views become us. And it follows us in a new life. So you see a very complete sequence there over what happens to us in this life, in the future life. So this number 7 here refers to rebirth. So here again, we want to be reborn in such a way that we would be happy. We do not want to be reborn in an unhappy state. And we can avoid being reborn in unhappy states. How? By practicing the perception of impermanence. By regularly practicing the reflecting on the nature of impermanence. Because when you are constantly aware of impermanence, no matter what happens to you, something negative comes to you, someone says something negative to you, you say, it's okay, all this is impermanent, it will pass. Something good comes to you, you say, oh, this is impermanent, it will not last very long. Let me appreciate this wonderful moment. So the practice of impermanence has that very wonderful quality. And when you habitually reflect in this way, we all grow old, we get sick, you know. The people we love and care also grow old, pass away. We're not badly affected. We do feel sad, yes, but we're not troubled by it. There's a big difference there. Even the Buddha feels sad when he sees something bad going on, but he's not troubled by it. So we try not to be troubled by these things. And when our time comes, we're at peace with ourselves, and we will all die at least as stream winners. So that is the kind of personhood rebirth that we should associate with. We don't want to be reborn in a rich, powerful family. This is the irony of karma, you know. Fortune teller might tell you, oh, you know, you've done wonderful good karma, you'll be reborn in a very rich and powerful family. But as a cat, as a dog, what's the point? One sutta actually says that, you know, right? Because it says that if a person is very generous, kind to people, does a lot of great things and famous and recognized, but he doesn't keep the precepts. It's dishonest, inwardly corrupt, but yet publicly does good. Oh, politicians love this kind of people. They don't care about your moral lives. So both karma will work. The fact that he's generous will bring its reward. The fact he didn't keep the precepts will also bring its reward. So this person, the Buddha says, will be reborn, let's say, as a cow, as a chicken, as some other animals, elephant and so on, which are loved in India. Of course, in Singapore, born as ornate little dogs, or maybe as a husky, you know. And then you have this lonely person taking care of this animal. But you're still an animal. What's the point? You can't meditate. So we don't have to be born that way. So you need to keep the precepts as well as practice generosity. That's what to be associated with. So the first cycle ends here. Then the Buddha approves of Sāriputta's exposition. Look at number 12, section 12, on page 152. Right? 13 of that. Sadhu, sadhu, Sāriputta. It is good, Sāriputta, that in what has been briefly spoken by me of this matter, without elaborating its meaning in detail, you thus understand the meaning in detail. And then the Buddha says everything again. Buddha recites all the teaching in his own words. So now it becomes actual Buddha word, right up to section 2, there's quite a lot here. Okay, look at page 158. So you can see why this is long. The repetition is to make sure that people who listen to it, because they don't have notes those days, they listen, and also it's learning by listening. But for us, because we use a book, you know, okay, it's all there. Then the second topic, the 12 sense bases. Okay, this is quite direct, quite easy. Look at section 22. So now the Buddha gives a new topic, a new summary. Sāriputta, form cognizable by the eye is of two kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. Sāriputta, sound cognizable by the ear is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. A smell cognizable by the nose is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. A taste cognizable by the tongue is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. A touch cognizable by the body is of two kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. A mind object cognizable by the mind is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. So these are the 6 senses. Actually, this part goes earlier, even before what we have just studied. We go into more detail, in other words, a more detailed analysis. Body, speech, and mind, right? So now, in more detail, form, sound, smell, taste, touch, mind objects. The first 5 are the body, the last one is the mind. Okay? So whatever arises in our sense doors, the 6 sense doors in this case, are either wholesome or unwholesome. Reject the unwholesome, cultivate the wholesome. So let's look at one example here. What does it mean? So now Sāriputta gives in detail. So Sāriputta says, oh, I know this one. Let me elaborate, right? Look at 24.1. I think should be Bhante here, isn't it? Form Bhante connected by the eye. Oh, sorry, this one Sāriputta is quoting the Buddha. So, form Sāriputta connected by the eye is of 2 kinds, I say, to be resorted to, or not to be resorted to. This is what the Buddha said. What does it mean? 24.2. Whatever kind of form Bhante connected by the eye when resorted to, wholesome states arise, or unwholesome states arise, wholesome states decrease. Such a form is not to be resorted to. But whatever kind of form Bhante connected by the eye, when resorted to, unwholesome states decrease, wholesome states increase. Such a form should be resorted to. Right? So the rest are the same. Sound, smell, taste, touch, mind objects, or thoughts in the mind. If they are unwholesome, reject them. If they are unwholesome, if they are wholesome, cultivate them. Build them up. So this part is very easy. This is the part teaching of being aware of your sense doors. This is called sense restraint. But this sense restraint is very interesting because it has got 6 aspects, usually only 5. When we talk about the sense restraint, normally it's just the restraint of the body. But here the mind is included also. And then the Buddha repeats everything, the second exposition. Right? The Buddha says, very good, sadhu, section 31, and then 32 onwards, up to 38, the Buddha endorses what Sāriputta says and repeats everything. So this is like, during you go for meditation retreat, this may be read by someone with a very calm voice before the meditation. So you listen to it, you just let it flow in your mind, very peaceful. Sometimes even while listening to it, you might get into beautiful, happy states. And then the voice just disappears into the background of the mind and you are already in jhana. And that also can happen. And now we come to the last part, the 3rd cycle. Can you see at the bottom of page 161? Proper resorts. Okay, this one is a very direct teaching for the monks. But of course, as lay people, we too can learn something here because this will be mentioned at the end, the very end of the sutta. That this teaching does not only apply to monks, it applies to anyone. Let's look at section 39.
Can I just stop you there?
Yes, sure.
It's really lengthy.
Okay.
But it doesn't say here what is wholesome or what's not wholesome. I'm sorry, I'm going back. I'm not looking at the 3rd cycle, I'm looking at the sense basis.
Okay.
So it just says, okay, each of the sense bases has 2 kinds.
Yeah.
But it does not say what kind is to be
elaborate.
avoided and what is to be adopted. Am I right? Because actually I've not read this, I'm just sort of scanning through.
Yeah, so the word wholesome, kusala, and unwholesome, akusala, is not explained in detail.
So that's it, just wholesome and unwholesome.
In other words, because here we have the Buddha talking with Sāriputta. Okay, so it is understood that Sāriputta knows the meaning. Okay? Of course, the audience may not know, that's quite true. So you can see, in other words, the context of the sutta. The sutta context is that you should know some things before this. There are other suttas talking about the nature of wholesome actions and unwholesome actions. For example, Kamavibhanda Sutta, right? So in other words, there is no one sutta that, how should I put it, has everything, and that would be quite, it's the whole Tipitaka.
Yeah.
So here, you have to look up elsewhere, in other words, and then build up.
General,
Yeah,
general
correct. So here, as I said, it is Sāriputta talking with the Buddha. So imagine, wow, these two greatest of the Buddhist saints talking to each other. It's like a professor talking to another professor, something like that. So there are certain assumptions. So wholesome are those things which, very simply put, which help us to calm our body and speech down, so that we don't hurt ourselves, we don't hurt others. Number two, it helps us to calm our minds down, to be happy, functional, creative. And then number three, number two is speech actually, number three is the mind. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. You can also look at this in terms of threefold training, right? Training of sila, samadhi, panya. It helps us in meditation, and attain deeper peace. And then this calm body, clear mind, you attain liberating wisdom. That's a very short definition of wholesome. Okay? So now we come back to the conclusion of the sutta, page 162, section 39. Sāriputta, the robe, or Pali is chivara, is of two kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And this is almost quite lighthearted. The Buddha said even robes, the robes you should use and those you should not use. Of course, here more like Vinaya. Certain robes say like kind of cloth cannot be used, too rich maybe, right? And those which are simple robes. Sāriputta, alms food, pitta is of two kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. For example, certain kinds of food the monks should not accept, like certain wild animals. Monks don't accept tiger meat, bear meat, elephant meat, right? Big animals, for example, or food meat especially prepared for the monks. They won't accept it. Sāriputta, lodging, sena, senas of two kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to, right? A monk should stay in a place which is very quiet, very peaceful, but at the same time, the place not too far away, the monk can walk for arm's round. Now, the next thing is very interesting. It's a village. Sāriputta, a village. Gama is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. So here, this village is people there are full of faith, peaceful. That kind of village should be resorted to. But some villages are violent people who are essentially inclined, so monks should not go there. And then there is a market town, right? Sāriputta, a market town. Nigama is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And nigama, not this gama and then nigama. Okay? Ni has a kind of a strengthening effect. In other words, more people go there. People, usually this market town, they arise at junctions, crossroads. So people go there, they put their things to sell, and then slowly the market grows up, that's why it's called market town, and it becomes a town. So it becomes a big village, it's called market town. And then the next one, it becomes a city. So you see an evolution here, village, market town, city. Sāriputta, a city, nagara, is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. And then 7, Sāriputta, the country, Janapada, is of two kinds, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. Country here has two senses at least. One is a nation, the other is a countryside. Okay? So it can mean either one. And then number 8, the last one, Sāriputta, a person, Pugala, is of two kinds, I say, to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. Okay? So the kind, some people are not generous, they don't respect the monks, so the monks are not to resort to such people. But there's a very interesting group of people who are good and kind and generous. But the Buddha does not allow the monks to go to them for alms. It's very interesting. You know why? You know who are these people? They are the stream winners who are so generous, they will give anything when the monk asks. In fact, these stream winners, they're very poor and they're eating a meal, and the monk comes along, they will give their very meal and they'll go hungry that very day. So the Buddha made a rule. Monks are not supposed to go to that kind of person. Because they will starve to death. Out of faith, they will give. It's natural they will give. So the Buddha, in his great compassion, said, no, monks should not go to such people. Very interesting rule. Okay? So they also regarded as people who should not be resorted to, but in a positive way. Okay, let's look at one example. 41.1. Sāriputta, the robe is of two kinds, I say, that to be resorted to or not to be resorted to. So it is said, what does this mean? Whatever kind of robe, Bhante, when resorted to, unwholesome states increase, wholesome state decrease, such a robe should not be resorted to. Whatever kind of robe, Bhante, when resorted to, wholesome states decrease, unwholesome states decrease, wholesome states increase, such a robe should be resorted to. Right? So in other words, dress sensibly. So same thing with alms food, lodging, village, market town, city, country, and then person. Okay? So all the means of support for a monastic, they should help the monastic to practice, to create this conducive environment to practice and attain awakening in this life. In other words, that's the meaning of wholesome. So let me see what other things I've not explained. Alms food, okay? Any kind of alms food that maybe eating too much, for example, may make the person sleepy, so he has to kind of not to eat too much. Certain kinds of food are not allowable, I've already mentioned, should not resort to. So, what about city? Okay, again here, city means it's a crowded area. When it is very crowded and busy, monastics, monks and nuns should not be there, right? This is a rule, you know. For example, you don't, properly speaking, you don't see monks. For example, in the, what do you call that? What resort is that? This Sentosa, places like that, or shopping complex. That's the meaning, not to be resorted to. And then country, if the country is not conducive to Buddhism, it's a dangerous place to go. Of course, monks will resort to such places. So that's why when the country is at peace, it's very important in other words. So here again, the monk should consider, the monastic should consider carefully, right? And then people also should resort to the right kinds of people, because some people misuse the monks, so to speak. They do not know how to treat monks properly. They give the wrong things to the monks, and then if the monks go on accumulating such wealth, they won't be able to practice. So the monks should also know what kind of people to associate with, and what kind of people should not associate with. There's a very interesting story about Citta here. Probably when he was still a very new Buddhist, he met a monk who could perform miracles because of his deep meditation. He was so excited, so he told the monk, "Can you, okay, show me a miracle. Okay? Show me this, show me that." And this monk obliged, you see. And then he was so happy, he told the monk, "You can come and stay in my, I have a park, you can stay there." The monk did not accept in silence. Instead, the monk said, "That is very good." That is very interesting, in the suttas, when the monk said that is very good, he's saying, that is very good, that's all. He's not saying, "I accept it." Alright? Because the next day, the monk took all his belongings, whatever a monk has, and he disappears. Never to return again to the village, the sutta says. Because he doesn't want to go on performing miracles for Citta, because it's not the right thing to do. So he's practicing what the sutta says. He does not want to resort to Citta because of that. Okay, this is a very special case. It's not that Citta is a bad guy, not at all. It's just he's so excited by the power of the monk, he didn't realize he's not supposed to do that. Maybe that was before he was awakened as a Srimana, or higher, see? So there is an example where this monk wisely, quietly went away to another place. We do not know who this monk is, we do not know where he went. But the important thing is the story of, in other words, preventing embarrassment and wrong action on both parties, on the side of both parties. So the sutta ends here. or rather there's a short little paragraph which tells us, the conclusion tells us, anyone will benefit from this. Look at section 60. Now the Buddha closes and says, Sāriputta, if all the kshatriyas, nobles and politicians were to thus understand in detail the meaning of what has been said briefly spoken by me, it would be for their good and happiness of all these kshatriyas for a long time. Right? And not only kshatriyas, Brahmins, these are the priests and teachers, the Vaishyas, the business people, the Shudras, middle class workers. Indeed, if Sāriputta, the world, with its devas, with its maras, with its brahmas, this generation, with its recluses and Brahmins, its rulers and people, were to thus understand in detail the meaning of what has been said briefly spoken by me, it will be for the happiness of the whole world. So there you are, right? If people tell you, oh, sutta is only for monks and nuns, you read this passage here. M114, section 60 onwards. It clearly says this teaching is for everyone. Not just Buddhists, by the way, for non-Buddhists also. Look, we have all the classes mentioned there. You have Kshatriya, Brahmin, Vaishya, Sudra, and the world. Okay? So the suttas are not just for a special group of people. It's for everyone. Okay, the sutta ends here. Any questions?
Buddha just repeats everything that Sāriputta said.
By way of endorsing it.
That's why the sutta is so long.
Very true.
It's quite confusing reading actually.
That is why you must know the structure.
Because it's going round and round and I think, oh,
Yeah.
where is this going?
If you study music and you study programming, these two things I can say for sure, you understand the structure.
It's like a chorus.
Yeah, correct. In chorus, in music, we call it something like a round song. Okay? And this is the mark of an oral tradition because it's meant to be heard. Yeah, when you study, you say, wow, so long, because you see that it's all written down, so palpable, see? But if you hear it, you don't say, oh, this is very long. You won't know because you don't know where it's going to end, see? Right?
The proper resource part, the lack of elaboration as to what is wholesome and what is not wholesome in relation to all these things.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a little regretful because not knowing the Vinaya rules, not with the Sanskrit, not being I don't know what is wholesome or unwholesome.
Right, that's
in this context, what is good? What sort of food?
Well, probably someone else might go to the Buddha. Someone else might go to the Buddha and ask the Buddha, okay, you said this, okay, what do you mean? Just like what you have said. And then another sutta will come later on. Because we've got thousands of suttas. So it's a matter of looking up. Step. So that's why the teaching doesn't stop here. Any other question? Yes?
The rising of 12
The difference, is it? Okay.
Is it a submission or what is it? I go back to Buddha.
Yeah, true. Here there is elaboration. So what the Buddha is telling us is to arrest the unwholesome thought early. Okay? Early. So it's a bit of Buddhist psychology here. How thoughts arise in us. So first is when they arise spontaneously. Like I said, the word arising, the one number 4, is when a thought crosses the mind. Sometimes you don't make an effort, the thought crosses the mind. That's the one. Let it cross. Or as we say in meditation, let it come, let it go. Okay? That's the one. First one. And then the second is perception. This thought crosses your mind and you say, oh, I recognize this thought. And then you use it to bring back some past thought. That's the one. You've got to stop it right there also. Perception level. And then if you don't, then it becomes a view. It becomes more entrenched. You form this idea, oh, I don't like this guy. Something like that. Then it becomes a view, stronger still. But even then, you can still let go of that. But that's loving kindness, for example. But if you don't, then it becomes you, personhood. There you are. See, very natural, very interesting progression. how one thought deepens until it becomes us. And then, yes, yeah, so that's why it's called gain. The word used is gain, patilabha. It builds up. Or another simple word is habituation. Well, it's not a simple word, habit. Okay, habit. So karma is habit forming, and habits, as you know, is also addiction. You can get caught up. You can get caught up with a negative habit, and you just don't know what to do. Conditioning, yes, definitely. So there are many words for this.
So when we summarize, thoughts leads to perception, which leads to views, which leads to self-identity.
Yeah, well, yes, possible too. You've been reading the suttas?
No. I mean, just following what you say. If you stop the thought, then it becomes perception. If you don't stop the perception, it becomes views. It becomes habitual, becomes self.
Yeah. Self-identity view.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's one way of seeing. Yeah, the lizard saying sadhu, by the way. Do you hear the lizard chirping? It says sadhu, sadhu.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Any other question? Yes?
All those thoughts.
Sorry? How to get rid of distraction in meditation, is it? Well, there are many ways. The simplest way, my favorite way is smiling at it. Smiling, you see when you're meditating, some distracting thoughts come to your mind, you let go of all your other objects, just smile at the distraction. Let's say a sound, you're meditating and then a lot of noise, people talking, and then just smile at it. And smile at it after you find there's nothing to be angry, because when you're smiling you can get angry, you see. So you smile and then focus on the smiling, feel the joy of the smiling, so your mind comes back to your mind. Your mind comes back to your mind, you know what I mean? It returns to the meditation, then you could continue. If the distraction goes away, you continue. If that doesn't work, then second one, you label it. You say, what is it? It's just sound, okay? Sound. Few times, and then let it go, smile at it, go back to your meditation. These two ways are good enough for the moment, right? Well, these are the different words related to sevitabba and so on. Sevitabba means that which should be associated. You should associate. Tabba, when you see the ending tabba, it means that which should be done. Yeah? Should be done. And asevitabba means should not be associated with, or should not be resorted to. In front means not. And then the next word is sevati, this is the verb. It means to associate with, to serve, to enjoy. Okay? I think the Sinhalese have a word called seva, sevaka. It means something like a servant. And then you have sevana. Sevana is the noun, the action. And asevana is the opposite. It's also a noun. And asevana is the first word in the blessings, the 38 blessings, Mangala Sutta. Asevana cha balanam, not associating with foolish people. This is a great blessing. And then pandita nancha sevana. Okay? The second line, sevana is used. Pandita nancha, pandita, the wise. Associating with the wise. Okay? So, avoiding foolish people, associating with the wise. Right? These are great blessings. And then puja cha pujaniyanam, honoring those worthy of honor. These three things are great blessings. So you find this word being used in the Mangala Sutta also. Any other questions?
Which should this associate or associate?
Which one?
The rich. So you say the rich.
Depends. If you're talking about a rich person, if a rich person is selfish, full of hatred, then the monk should not associate with such a person. We're talking about wholesome qualities. Then I was talking about a stream winner. Some stream winners, they're full of faith. They are so generous that it comes to a point where they become poor. And when a monk comes along and they're eating, they will give their own food also. Then they will starve. So the Buddha made a rule that there are certain kinds of families, they are protected families. The monks should never go there to collect alms. But of course, it doesn't mean they cannot give alms to the monks. They can. Whenever they are ready and they are able to, they will give alms. Because they are always stream winners, they don't need merits. You see? So it's just a matter of practicing more. And the Buddha doesn't want them to be hurt in that sense.
So these are for monks.
Which one? No, anyone. Let the last conclusion say anyone can study this sutta.
How will the man know that
The Buddha will announce. Of course, nowadays it's very difficult for us to know. All right. I suppose today the rule can still be applied. For example, we know this person is very saintly, and this person is so generous, and he's willing to give away all his wealth to maintain a monastery, and he's so poor, he's just enough to support himself. And you ask some more, this poor man is going to starve himself, So we can follow the spirit of the rule, in other words, not to ask for this particular family because they're already very poor and yet they're full of faith. See? So in other words, not to go to such a level that the giving will hurt the giver. That's the meaning.
There's a small typo error on page 145.
145. 6.2.
7 line.
Yes.
Bodily should be verbal.
Oh, thank you very much. This is an important correction.
The text of this sutta somehow seems to be very familiar.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
It's in one of the suttas.
Yeah. Yes.
Things like deja vu.
No, you read the introduction. The introduction will tell you where certain parts are connected with other suttas. They overlap. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So that's very observant. That's good. You will notice some parts very familiar. So my part, the translator, I said, where did this occur? To look up, and I have to link it up. And that's what I've done in the introduction. Sometimes you see in the footnote, look at page 1, same page, 145.
Yeah.
You see, for example, note 53. This section as at Sāriputta Sutta. There you are. It's all mentioned, the list of suttas. Okay? So some scholars are very good, they can remember all this stuff and then they will link it up. It's very helpful. And then on the opposite page you find, there you are. Look at note 52. There's a list of suttas there. Now this one, normally it would take me a whole day just to list to look up one by one. Okay? But I know once you do it once like that, it's very helpful after that.
Right, so meaning that these suttas will have similar passages.
Similar, sometimes identical.
Right. Okay.
So then they are called, if they repeat themselves, for example, in note 52, they are called stock passages. Stock.
Oh, stop passages.
They're called stock passages. Okay. If they are long, famous passages, then they are called pericope. Pericope is a Greek word. Right? Pericope are passages not too long, but they are kind of used again and again in different parts of the scripture. Pericope. Okay? Peri means all around, cope means cut. Okay? There's another word called apocope. Apocope is where the last vowel sound is cut off. And this is very common in Hindi. So a lot of the Sanskrit words, the vowels at the end are dropped. For example, amitabha become amitabha. Amitabha, Amitabha, okay? And then Buddha becomes Bud. Even in Sinhalese, they call Bud. Okay? So the last one is dropped. Any more questions?
Just now you mentioned animals don't have the ability to meditate.
No, yes. They can't meditate. They can't, because they can't stay focused. Their mind are so predictable. They always they appear to meditate, but they only appear to meditate. Maybe they can feel peaceful. Yes. Okay, but they cannot attain the kind of high level that the human mind can. They cannot go beyond the cyclic behavior that they are used to, animals. And their brains are less developed than the human brain. Okay, anything else? Any other question? So we end here. Yeah? Let us spend a short moment to close. I'd like to today is Mother's Day. So this is the sutta also mentioned how we should relate to people as part of our family. So this is the day also for us to recall the very special qualities of our parents, especially the mother. For example, in the Metta Sutta, there's a saying we should cultivate loving kindness, just as a mother would love her one and only child with her own life. Because without parents, we would not be born. Our gratitude to our parents is to have given us this chance to be born as a human being, and the rest are our own karma. We build ourselves up in that way. So for this, it is impossible to measure the goodness of a mother, of the pain she went through to bear us and to bring us into this world. Reflecting in this way is very good mental karma, but a part of this karma, may we attain spiritual happiness and joy in this life itself, and all the blessings of life. Above all, may we attain spiritual liberation, namely stream winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace, let us send out our loving kindness to all the people here, to all those who work very hard for this place, to all the beings who inhabit this place. And let us also send out our loving kindness to our loved ones, to our friends and relatives and friends, and also to those who have yet to see the Dharma, that they may quickly be touched by the Dharma and their lives be transformed to be better beings. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.